Hello friends of WildRift and welcome back to another RiftGuides WildRift video. For today we have something kind of out of the ordinary for you, because we are having a VOD recording of KRANIX, the #1 AD carry for the European server. He sent us a video and we're gonna look at the video and comment on it. We'll give you some insight as to why he's doing things, etc, etc. So let's go into the video. He's playing against a apparently Morgana and Rakan lane, which is a very weak early game lane. There's not much they can do, and Janna and Lucian are just powerhouses in the early game. They just make life living hell. As you see, they're cheesing in the first brush, expecting the enemy to move forward. Janna already pre-channeling her first ability to just catch somebody off guard, sadly missing. However, the Morgana's out of position and can't do anything. Keep in mind, Morgana can only drop her second ability into the wave and walk off. There's not much else she can do. But by doing so, she messes up her own wave, and with Rakan being in mid lane, there's nothing she can do. She's not allowed to get close, and even now she's getting zoned from experience points, which will make life pretty desperate for her. When you play bot lane, you have to kind of think about always zoning the enemy team. As you see, Morgana is a little griefer. Imagine walking up this close, level 1 to a Lucian Janna lane. You are just bound to die instantaneously. There's not much to do. And the next logical consequence for this lane should be pushing the next wave in, which is the cannon wave. Lucian wants to go base because there's nothing else to achieve in this lane. So ideally they just push the wave as fast as possible and then get home and maybe get a kill by going for the Rakan. But yet again, there's risk involved and it's not really necessary. With the Morgana back, it's now time to look for the pieces. What are we gonna do and what can we do? It's all about the enemy griefing or not griefing. So if you can't pull it off, the best choice of action here is just recall. But you can obviously stay, but you're not gonna do too much here. As you see, Lucian is completely out of resources and nothing more to achieve, and depending on the items you want to go for, staying in the lane is more like a luxury gold, and you don't really need that much gold. There's not much to achieve. It's just about going home, and then once you're home, you come back. But you see, we stay in this lane even longer. But there's not necessarily a reason apart from basically having fun. In an ideal world, you would have already recalled, spend your gold for the power spike, and then go back to the lane and put them into the dirt. There's not much the enemy team can do, and you have always to think about what the enemy jungler could do at the same time if you were spotted or anything along those lines, and how your resources look like. Because if you see this now, there's not much they can do because they have completely drained resources, and Mr. Kha'Zix the cockroach is already here. And now we're getting pushed under the tower. What else is there to achieve? We're getting into very dangerous territory, but we are instantaneously punishing the enemy for a slight misstep because the Morgana's out of mana. With Morgana being out of mana, she can't do anything, and therefore we are gifted a double kill. So in this instance, you are being showcased how it looks like if you believe your skills are vastly superior to the opponents. Obviously, if you're playing against better players, you will get punished for what you've just seen. But more than often enough, you'll get away with everything. But notice there was one slight mistake he could have done even better. If you look at the plating HP, you could have probably hit the plating at least once to get one extra plating before going base, without any kind of risk involved, because you could have just tapped it once and then go base again. With the reset in place and the waves in the spaces they're in, Janna can just now go mid lane and just look what's happening. Lucian can just walk back to lane and accumulate some gold. If Lucian wanted to, he could have also gone there, but then he would have might or potentially lost a few minions. But now he can zone the Morgana off because Morgana cannot defend herself. She's a very weak champion and just can't do anything against Mr. Lucian. The only thing she can do is just annoying with some puddles, but she needs those puddles to farm minions, and if she can't do this, well, then we have a slight problem for the Morgana. She can only just put those puddles into the wave and push it, and once she does this, it's a free reign for the Lucian. There's not much to do, and unfortunately she survives. It's a tragedy, a travesty, and Mr. Lucian already swings the camera to just showcase that he's kinda tilted. But as you see, the support is not really here, and both supports are roaming the map until then they return to the lane again. As for now, if you think about this, Lucian could go or could have gone for a base, which then would have allowed Janna to rotate more. But now Janna has spent significant amounts of time running around the map not accomplishing anything, and will come back at a time where Lucian doesn't even want to be in lane anymore, theoretically. But now, if you think about what is happening in the solo queue again, the enemy is griefing, but on the other hand, Janna is getting caught by the Morgana ultimate, and nothing of this would have ever happened, funnily enough, if the Lucian just pushed a wave, went base, allowed the Janna to go for another rotation on the other side of the map, for example towards the Yone, and then nobody would have lost any type of summoner spell, HP bar or anything, and the impact on the map would have been magnified by a lot. And this is just about the map movement, because now you see he is locked in lane again as the objectives are spawning, wanting to spend gold, because the 1600 gold are not valuable until he spends them. Kha'Zix, one of those champions that just loves to take down those dragons and objectives very fast, and the Mumu is one of those teamfight champions. So with the Mumu, ideally you want to teamfight, and he's kinda cracked at it. Because once he tags you and presses ultimate ability, life is gonna get really bad for the enemy team, and he even waits so unbelievably long. And now with the enemy spells on cooldown, it's time for the Lucian to clean up, and he knows what's happening, and there's no hope for the little Morgana to survive, and now it's money time for the Lucian. Janna should make her way to the other side of the map, to the Herald, and Lucian should just get the gold that is in the enemy jungle and the wave. There's a lot of time left for platings, the enemy support should probably go towards the Herald or maybe holds the tower, but he can't do anything about the Lucian, so the Lucian has a free window to get even more gold. And most players, you will notice, run away from this and just run towards their team, which is a glaring mistake. You get so much more gold by doing this, what KRANIX is doing here, and it helps you snowball games even more. Because if you think about this, a melee minion is 65 gold, a caster is 40 gold, and the cannon is 85 gold. And the plating is even more gold. And if you compare all the kills you need to get to that value of gold, you'll be surprised how many kills you need to get close to multiple amounts of waves. Plus, it's obviously inconsistent, because you can't just always say, well, I'm gonna kill them, because that is something you cannot always predict. Another thing which we have to talk about when it comes to Morgana is her only line of defense is her first ability, and whenever this is down and against a champion with a dash, which is Lucian, she just dies on repeat. She cannot do anything if she leaves the tower. She is not allowed to leave the safety of a tower, because if she does, what you've just seen will happen to her again and again and again. There's nothing she can do. The Rakan is now completely off tempo, and he's just stuck here trying to get a few waves, a few gold, nothing. He's completely clueless, and KRANIX is just allowed to get a lot of extra gold. Also, if you're kind of confused as to what KRANIX is building, he's going for an Essence Reaver, and afterwards he's also going for a Vampiric Scepter. So, in technicality, you will deal less damage, yes, but here is the deal breaker. Number 1, the Essence Reaver will grant you infinite mana in combination with the Mana Flow, and the Vampiric Scepter will allow you to farm camps. Because there's one thing when it comes to Lucian that is always absolutely annoying. If you go for jungle camps and use your spells for them, you're out of mana instantaneously and can't do anything anymore. You're just useless, you can just sit there and auto-attack. Which on a spellcasting auto-attack champion, which is Lucian, he's a spellcaster or spell slinger, is detrimental towards impact. But as you see, pay attention to what KRANIX does most of the time. He doesn't really associate himself with the team when it's not really needed. This fight mid lane doesn't accomplish anything, and if he would go there, he would probably bleed gold. To avoid this, he's just going for more and more side lane gold, inclusively jungle camps. Because that is the way you get the most gold in the fastest amount of time, which is in a reliable fashion. Once, however, you reach the critical mass on items, for example 3 items, 4 items depending on the champion you play, maybe even less, you can go for very proactive plays. For example, a Tristana goes rotating around the map and takes down towers. Lucian doesn't really excel that much at this because of his low range, but he can go for pretty cheeky kills. So taking an early tower with Lucian isn't the best. You want to take down people, you want to kill people on repeat, which means working with waves. Going for a big wave, crashing the wave, killing those people, punishing them and freezing them. Most other AD carries that are more siege-like AD carries, such as Tristana or Caitlyn, can be rotated around the map and take down outer towers. And if you do it really well, you can take down a tower at like 3 or 4 minutes. Just yesterday I played a game with Kawa and Caitlyn and we took down a tower at like 3 minutes, and it's just very powerful to get that much gold. As you see, there's not much for him to do at this very moment in time, so he's just running around the map and associating himself with the team, going for a quick play, and then goes to the next resource available. He wants as much gold as possible, and the moment he sees an item spike available, he just goes for it. Even staying for this wave is not really necessary because it's just luxury gold, because now he's delaying his own reset for nothing really much, to be honest, because realistically speaking, there's no way he gets his blue buff unless the Kha'Zix fails the first ability Smite combo. This is just ego and for fun playing, and we all love it sometimes, but the issue is, now he's desyncing his recall, and the objective is already soon spawning while his teammate is, well, having an unfortunate encounter with the enemy team, and he'll most likely be a tiny bit delayed, which could or could not influence the upcoming fight. It's very important that you understand that timing matters, and being in the right position at the right time, look what he just did, is very mandatory for your success in game. As a consequence now, we don't get the Herald, but we get a kill. We already have one dragon and will most likely get the second dragon upon doing what we've just done. But theoretically speaking, we could have gotten both. We could have gotten both Herald and dragon. However, due to the mismatch in recall timings, we can only go for one. The Yone is a little bit troubled here, and there's, well, you know how it goes. We Yone players are kind of weird, or Yona players. But yet again, fight is over, objective is already secure, so why waste time? Go for the next logical thing. Take camps, take more camps, and go back to the wave. Now, maybe protect this Herald to get at least one charge with the 75 HP. Maybe the Stir can even be killed, and maybe there's hope that this Herald gets another charge off. And he does. So it's 23 HP, and what is the next logical consequence? When you're playing against the Kha'Zix, by the way, your support, or you, should just walk into the nearest person that is available to non-isolate yourself. Because if you're not isolated, there's no cooldown reduction for its first ability, and its damage is greatly reduced. And most Kha'Zix players hate this case. Also, when you play this game, trapping in juggle brushes with the lovely control ward is a game changer in terms of just making the life living hell for the enemy team. And as you see, in this instance, he has not as much damage as he would have with, for example, a full damage build, because he has the latest power spikes because of the Vampiric Scepter, but he is constantly full HP. Whatever happens to him, you can just quickly dip and just instantly heal full again. Even when this Olaf is trying to attack him, there's no way he can kill him because he has infinite mana and infinite self-heal. And there's already a Bramble Vest in place on the enemy team. As you see, this healing is absolutely insane. But you have to understand that you need to be a very good player to use those resources you invest to get those items to turn it into even more resources. Because it's very difficult to quantify, to find value for time spent. Similar things apply to, for example, Arenga, because Arenga can just instantaneously, infinitely stay on the map and just farm camps with a Bloodthirster build as the game goes on. Because contrary to that, you'll most of the time have situations where your allies have some unfortunate accident where they just die, similar to KRANIX here, because he had 4k gold, but he was like, just another camp, just another camp, and just another camp, and he just chose death, unfortunately. Another thing that is quite weird that we need to talk about, or maybe a little bit different from what you have heard so far, the support most of the time runs around the map whenever he wants to, in the earlier stages of the game, because you as an AD carry, you just want farm. That's all you really care about. You don't really care about anything else. But when it comes to the later stages of the game, your support, depending on what type of support you place, for example an Enchanter in the form of Janna, should be very close to the most powerful person on the team. You locate the most powerful person on the team and constantly stick with them as the game goes on in solo queue. That is your highest bet of winning the game, and it makes it significantly easier to have impact. If you would just stick with the person you were designed to be with from the get-go, in the sense of, hey, I queued for this lane, I should be with this person, you will lose unbelievable amount of games. But yet again, you see the clear theme of what KRANIX wants to achieve. Go for gold, get more gold, spend that gold, and one-tap people. But we need to remind ourselves, he, in these earlier stages of the game, lost a lot of time by going for plays that weren't really adding to his gold. On theory, he got some extra gold, but this gold couldn't be spent for anything because the items he would have bought cost more gold or didn't even matter in the first place. Now you saw, he was isolated and Mr. Kha'Zix loved him, and therefore he just gets absolutely sent into the Shadow Realm. For the items as you see here, he will go for more than 100% crit. Now I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter if you go over 100% crit in the first place. The item stats that you want are really insane. You want 100% crit as fast as possible, which means most of the time you'll go for lot doms. However, as you reach 100% crit, you can then sell the lot doms later on and go for Cyrildo. It's more about just getting to the 100% crit as fast as possible, so there's no more RNG involved. You get that point and you won't have people. There's no more luck involved, you just straight up crit them into Narnia, it doesn't matter anymore. This is very important and very helpful as the game goes on. But later, don't forget, you could just sell it, because then it doesn't matter anymore. As the game goes on, as you see, there's one thing that he needs to be very much afraid of. The more the game passes, especially on, for example, level 5, you see it's happening right now, the Rakan appears. Exactly that one. So his Amumu had some lovely incident with this Baron buff, and since he's a low range AD carry, he can't attack over the wall, so he would need to jump over the wall, but he didn't want to do Nasher because it's too much of a flip. And if there's one thing that is detrimental against any Rakan, it's not knowing where he is. This champion is unbelievably powerful when it comes to just assassinating you. And to avoid this, you either need very fast reaction times, which is very unlikely in a mobile game environment, or proper setup in terms of vision. What you can do for this is typically the ward thing, or you have an ally walk in front of you that poses or just works as a fake human ward. If he then gets engaged, he will die. But if you think about it, in the late game, your life as a carry is substantially more valuable than that of a support or tank. And with the Rakan putting his vital spells on cooldown, you can then clean up absolutely easily. So now they have to defend against the Baron Nasher buff. There's not much to do, but on the plus side, for Elder, the inhibitor tower on the Baron lane will still be down. We don't have the respawning inhibitors yet, so everything is fine. But with this lane still being down, they have constant pressure which they can abuse to deal with Elder later on. And for some reason Mr. Set is engaging up there and having some beautiful time with the tower. Remember what I said with the human wards? Just because there were allies next to the Rakan was seen early enough and KRANIX could react fast enough. If this wasn't the case and he would have been the closest ally to the Rakan, he would have instantly died. Because it's so difficult to avoid the full engage of Rakan, especially if the Rakan is flash. Now, KRANIX team has 2 inhibitors down, which is natural pressure on 2 different lanes, which could lead to the ending of the game, but they have to fend off the siege against the enemy team. And fending off a siege against a Morgana with blue buff is painful. It is completely painful. You see those puddles everywhere and it's so hard and so difficult to just play. All they have to do though is survive for as long as possible. With the people respawning and not much else to do, the enemy team needs to push in 2 different side waves against super minions to then get closer to the tier 3 towers, to then negate the pressure the default pushing waves do. But with every mistake they do, they can instantly die, and you see KRANIX is dodging everything left and right, is completely outplaying the enemy with his mobility. And that's the only thing he can do in this very instance. It's very difficult for him to perform and very difficult for him to find impact in the sense of just making a single mistake is immediate death for him. But yet again, now there's an angle to end the game. What can they do and what can the enemy team do to stop this? KRANIX team should go all mid lane. There's no reason to go side lane at all. They are pushing completely independently. Yet again, he's spaced so far away from potential danger that Mr. Rakan couldn't reach. Now Rakan's spell is on cooldown, so they have time for another wave, and mid lane inhibitor is the most worthless inhibitor of the game because every play can be played through mid lane, so it doesn't really matter. Now the thing is, if they get this inhibitor tower, they will most likely win, but not instantly. But here's why. Getting this inhibitor tower will spawn double the amount of super minions on each lane, which will naturally cause big problems for the enemy team. Now, if they don't want to fight, all they have to do is go towards Nasher. Nasher or Elder both will end the game. In this instant, Nasher is superior because so many super minions are around. And all they have to do is hide. Being in an Inferno Rift makes it a little bit more difficult, but they don't have to do anything. The Rakan is going in, however, completely decent with his entire team, doesn't accomplish anything, and Lucian is free to do something, but sadly gets tagged by a binding, and then pain is just unfolding. Nonetheless, with the pain unfolding, there's still something they have to deal with. Look at all those minions everywhere. Don't forget, the enemy team can't really end because somebody has to defend, and the only person, the best person to defend all those waves, is Morgana. And the Zamumu is running around the map to reach those minions, and he basically is wasting time of the enemy team so they can't immediately finish. If the enemy team chose to go for the finish and just let Morgana defend, it would have most likely been ending the game. Very simple. But now as a consequence, they'll get just quote-unquote just Elder. With Elder being in the place it is, I honestly think it could have potentially been better for the enemy team to get Nashor, because his objective is more important in fending off the base. Elder will be nice, but on the other hand, having a Morgana makes Elder substantially more powerful, so it's a give and take. Considering it's a Morgana, I believe it's better. But now for Lucian, it's very difficult to just play the game. Anything that tags him immediately sends into the Shadow Realm. It's just a funny thing that Elder on different teams is just so much more powerful than on other teams. Just because the enemy team has a Morgana, Elder is unbelievably crazy, but on KRANIX team, it's substantially weaker than Baron in this instance due to the natural factors of waves, overall champions, etc, etc. It's kinda weird. Also, don't forget that Baron scales up very heavily as the game goes on and gives you insane stats with higher game time. If you look at this, Morgana is constantly forced to defend. And luckily, KRANIX has so much sustain, because otherwise he would have just died, and with him dying, the game instantly ends. Morgana is forced to be on base defense, so she's basically playing tower defense. And the other champions on their team are trying to accomplish something they can't. The only available play for the enemy team of KRANIX is to go for Baron. They need to get clear of the vision around Baron and then either trap or do Baron instantly. Just dancing around the base without Morgana being there to do anything with the Elder doesn't accomplish anything, and Kha'Zix tries to go for a desperation play and he gets absolutely demolished and punished for his play. If this play works out, however, which it could have done, then this game ends as well. Remember how KRANIX died here by the Rakan engage? He remembered and just used his ultimate into that brush because he knew he had enough of Mr. Rakan and he just doesn't want this guy anymore. You just love to see the sustain and they just keep on pushing forward. With the game as it is, it's still very difficult to finish because of this Morgana champion. It is such a disgusting combination with Elder. And they couldn't even go for an objective. They can maybe bait, but now with them being in the place they are, KRANIX can actually punish and end the game. But it's such a painful ending to the game. Morgana is still an obnoxious champion and absolutely broken. And if you want to see more of those videos, you should definitely please like and subscribe and come back for more, because we have always more for you. Thank you all for watching, and if you want more of this commentary, just let me know in the comments below.